My best friend's 18-year-old brother started treating me differently, and I don't know why. I always saw him as just a kid. You know, my best friend's younger brother, annoying, loud, constantly trying to tag along back when we were teenagers. But then he turned 18, and something changed. Not in his looks, though he did grow taller, leaner, and got this confidence in his smile that wasn't there before. What changed was how he looked at me, how he spoke to me, the way his presence started to linger even after he left the room. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination, or maybe some leftover guilt from the fact that I really noticed, how attractive he'd become. But then came the late-night conversations, the long stares, the offhand comments that sounded too charged to be innocent. And suddenly, I didn't know where I stood anymore. Was he just being friendly? Teasing me? Testing me? Or was I the one reading into something that wasn't there? What happens when someone you never expected starts crossing a line you never dared to draw? Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapters. This one gets complicated fast. Let me tell you how it started. It started one weekend in early June when I stopped by Liam's house after work. Nothing special, just a regular Friday. I hadn't seen my best friend in a few weeks, and we made plans to grab pizza and catch the game. I pulled into the driveway just as the sun was setting, the air heavy with that humid Indiana summer stillness, the kind that makes everything feel more intimate than it should. Liam wasn't home yet. His mom let me in, told me he got stuck at work and would be late, so I could hang out, maybe grab a soda from the fridge. She was heading out to a book club, and his dad was working late too. That left just one person in the house. Ethan. The last time I'd seen him, he was maybe 15. Scrawny, shy, always hiding behind Liam, and asking way too many questions about music, girls, and life. He'd always looked at me like I had the answers. But when he stepped into the kitchen that night, barefoot, hair still wet from the shower, wearing just gym shorts and a white t-shirt that clung to his chest, I froze. That wasn't the Ethan I remembered. He saw me, and his lips curved slightly. "You're here." "Hey," I said, clearing my throat. "Didn't know you were around." He walked over to the fridge, pulled out a Gatorade, and leaned against the counter across from me. He didn't say anything for a moment, just looked at me like he was studying my face. "You still work in construction?" he asked. "Yeah, roofing now. Pays better." He nodded, eyes trailing from my face down to my forearms. "You look stronger." I let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah, well, it's hot up there in the summer. Builds muscle." Ethan twisted the cap off his drink and took a long sip without breaking eye contact. It should have felt awkward, but it didn't. It felt deliberate. "So Liam's running late," I said, needing to fill the silence. Ethan smirked. "Guess you're stuck with me." I tried to look anywhere, but at him. "That's fine. I'm sure we can talk about something." "Oh, I've got questions," he said, stepping closer, still trying to figure some things out. His tone was teasing, but there was something beneath it, something I couldn't pin down. He walked around the kitchen slowly, circling the island until he was next to me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something subtle and clean. "You seem different," I said, more deflect than anything. "I turned 18 last month." "I know," I replied. "Happy birthday." "Thanks." "So I'm legal now," he added, watching my reaction carefully. I swallowed. "For voting?" "Yeah." He laughed. "And other things." I looked at him, unsure whether to laugh or get out of there. "You always looked at me like a little kid," he said suddenly. "But I'm not." I was about to respond when the front door opened and Liam's voice called out, "Yo, you here?" I stepped back like I'd been burned. Ethan gave me one last glance, a small tilt of his head, like he was amused. Then he walked out of the kitchen without another word. That night, I couldn't focus on the game. Liam talked and joked and threw popcorn at me like old times, but something in me had shifted. Every time I heard Ethan walking around upstairs or passing behind us to grab a drink, I felt it again, this low hum under my skin. A current I didn't want to admit was real. At one point, I looked up and caught Ethan leaning against the hallway wall, watching us. Watching me. His expression was unreadable, his arms folded. When he saw me notice, he didn't look away, just slowly disappeared around the corner. I left earlier than planned. Said I was tired, but I wasn't. I was confused. Over the next few weeks, Ethan kept showing up. He'd drop by while I was hanging out with Liam. Sometimes he'd make small talk. Sometimes he'd just sit nearby, phone in hand, eyes flicking toward me like he was waiting for something. One afternoon, Liam went to the store, and Ethan and I ended up alone in the living room. I was scrolling on my phone, trying to ignore how quiet it was, when he sat down beside me on the couch. Not across from me, beside me. He was close. Too close. "You ever think about stuff that doesn't make sense?" he asked, his voice lower than usual. I looked at him. Like, what? Like, what if something feels wrong but also feels right? What if it makes your heart beat faster, but also makes you feel calm? I stared at him. "What are we talking about?" I asked. He turned to face me fully. "You tell me." There was no playfulness in his voice now, just honesty and heat. I stood up, heart racing. I should go." Ethan nodded slowly. "Okay, but you'll be back." I left without another word. But deep down, I knew he was right, because I couldn't stop thinking about that look in his eyes, that confidence, and the question that haunted me. Was he crossing a line, or was I the one who wanted him to? I told myself I wasn't going to see him again, that I'd keep my distance, draw a line, shake off the feeling like it was just summer heat messing with my head. I even avoided Liam for a while, dodged his texts, ignored "Is you alive?" voice notes, and told myself I was just busy. But the truth? I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. I couldn't stop replaying that question on the couch, the way his voice dropped, the way he looked at me like he already knew what I was too scared to admit. And I hated that it stirred something in me, something I didn't have a name for. 2 weeks later, Liam invited me to a barbecue. Low key, he promised. Just a few people, burgers, maybe some beers if my dad doesn't notice. I hesitated. "Ethan gonna be there?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Yeah, probably," Liam replied. "You too cool?" He mentioned you've been weird. Weird, right. I almost laughed. "Yeah, we're fine." I showed up late on purpose, hoping the crowd would keep us apart. The backyard was already buzzing when I arrived. Music playing low, lights strung over the fence, people gathered around a smoking grill. I spotted Liam near the cooler and made my way over, trying to focus. And then I heard it. "Hey!" I turned. Ethan stood near the gate, a red plastic cup in one hand, sunglasses pushed up into his messy hair, wearing a dark tank top that left little to the imagination. He looked good. Too good. "Didn't think you'd show," he said. "Neither did I." He smiled, then leaned in slightly. "You been avoiding me?" "I've been busy," I replied. He took a sip from his drink and tilted his head. "You're not a good liar." I rolled my eyes and walked toward the grill, but he followed. Every step he took beside me made my chest tighten. I could feel his presence like heat against my skin. We didn't talk for a while. I tried blending in with the others, laughing, grabbing food, watching Liam burn a hot dog to death on the grill. But Ethan kept orbiting. I caught him looking more than once. And I looked back. At one point, I stepped inside to use a bathroom. When I turned the corner into the hallway, I nearly ran straight into him. He didn't move. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, more defensive than I meant to be. "Doing what?" "You know what?" He leaned against the wall, voice calm. "I'm not doing anything you don't feel too." I stared at him. "That's not fair." "Why?" "Because I'm not supposed to want this? Because I'm younger? Because you're Liam's brother," I said. "Because this is messed up." He stepped closer. "Then why haven't you stopped me?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. He was right. Every time he showed up, every time he spoke in that low, careful tone, every time he looked at me like I wasn't just a guy but his guy, I let it happen. I didn't push him away. I let him inch closer. And I liked it. "Ethan," I said, but my voice broke. His expression softened. Do you really not feel it? He was so close I could feel the warmth of his breath on my cheek. Something flickered inside me. Desire. Fear. Something raw. I can't, I whispered. You already are, he said and stepped away, leaving me cold, breathless, and completely unsure of who I was anymore. I drove home that night with the windows down. Try to let the wind drown out the war going on inside my head. I couldn't sleep. I kept playing everything on a loop. The things he said, the way he looked at me like he saw straight through my defenses. And the worst part? I didn't know if I wanted to rebuild those walls anymore. The next morning, I woke to a message from him. You don't have to say anything. Just come by. Liam's working a double. We'll be alone. My fingers hovered over the screen for a long time. I could delete it, ignore it, prove I was the adult here. But instead, I got in the car. When I arrived, the house was quiet. His parents were out of town, and Liam really was working late. I stood at the edge of the driveway for a solid 2 minutes before I rang the bell. Ethan opened the door in a fitted gray hoodie and black joggers. Casual, clean, like he hadn't been waiting, but I knew better. You came, he said. I nodded. We didn't speak as I stepped inside. The air felt charged, heavy, like we were standing at the edge of something neither of us could name. He gestured to the couch. Want something to drink? I shook my head. He sat down beside me, closer than he needed to be, but I didn't move. After a moment, he turned to me. You ever wonder why this is happening now? What do you mean? Why you're here? Why I'm not just some kid to you anymore? I looked at him. He wasn't teasing. He was asking, searching, and that's when I saw it. Beneath the confidence, the charm, the perfectly timed smirks, he was nervous too, just like me. Maybe not sure what this was. Maybe scared of what it could become. I don't know. I said honestly, but it scares the hell out of me. Me too. We sat in silence. Then he added, almost too quietly to hear, but I still want it. I didn't answer, but I didn't leave either. And that silence between us said everything. There are moments you don't forget, not because they're dramatic or loud or filled with fireworks, but because they slip under your skin and stay there, impossible to explain to anyone else. That's what it felt like that night on Ethan's couch. Quiet, slow, and unforgettable. I don't remember what movie he put on. Some mindless action thing. Background noise. Neither of us was really watching. The lights were low, the blinds half closed. The distance between us had started wide, but slowly. So naturally I almost didn't notice it shrank. We didn't talk. We just existed side by side. His knee barely brushed mine once. I didn't move. The air between us buzzed with the kind of energy I hadn't felt in years. Not with anyone. It wasn't just attraction. It was awareness. The kind that starts in your chest and rolls outward until even your fingertips feel alive. And then it happened. He reached forward to grab the remote, his forearm grazing mine. But it wasn't the graze. It was when he pulled back and his fingers paused just lightly, intentionally, on my arm. Not a grab, not a full touch, just a resting, a claim. I turned slowly. He didn't pull away. Our eyes met. He didn't smirk this time. He didn't tease. He just looked at me like he was trying to read every line on my face. My hesitation, my fear, my want. I should have said something, anything, but I didn't, because I couldn't. I wasn't ready to give a name to the thing forming between us. But then he whispered something, so soft I barely caught it. You can tell me to stop. His fingers were still on my arm, still warm, still waiting, and I swear in that moment, the silence screamed louder than any word I could have said, because I didn't stop him. I didn't even flinch. He leaned forward slightly, just a few inches. His breath reached me first, then his hand, sliding up from my arm to rest on my shoulder. And for a split second, the world stopped spinning. But I pulled away. Suddenly, too fast. I stood up, heart pounding. I can't, I said, backing up. I'm sorry. He stayed on the couch, his eyes searching mine. You didn't say no. I just did. He nodded slowly, but his voice was quiet when he said, You're not scared what this is? You're scared of what it means. That hit deeper than I wanted it to. And the worst part? He was right. I wasn't scared of him. I was scared how badly I wanted him. I left without another word. The drive home was a blur. I couldn't stop shaking. And when I got to my apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed for nearly an hour, just staring at my hands. They still felt like they held something invisible. His touch, his warmth. I tried to convince myself that I had done the right thing, that backing off, pulling away, leaving, that was strength, that it was necessary. But it didn't feel like strength. It felt like regret. For 3 days, I didn't speak to anyone. Liam texted. I ignored it. Ethan didn't reach out. And I didn't know if that made me feel better or worse. I kept playing it over in my head. The look on his face. How sure he was. How soft his voice turned when he wasn't trying to get a reaction. There was no game anymore. No teasing. He had shown me the real thing. And I walked away from it. Maybe because I didn't trust myself. Or maybe because I still didn't know who I was when I was with him. On the 4th day, I went back to work, hoping a full day of sweat and roofing would burn the thoughts out of my body. But it didn't. If anything, the quiet rhythm of work made it worse. I kept seeing his face, hearing his voice. That night, I came home to find Liam sitting on my doorstep. He stood when he saw me. Hey, he said, we need to talk. I froze. About? He gave me a look. Don't do that. I said nothing. Liam ran a hand through his hair and sighed. Ethan's been acting weird. Like, really weird. Quiet. Moody. Staying in his room. I asked what was going on, and he said, ask your best friend. So, I'm asking. I looked at the ground. It's complicated. Liam crossed his arms. Try me. I hesitated. He kissed me. Liam blinked. Then again. What? Or almost kissed me. I corrected. I stopped it. But he touched me. And it wasn't just a game. He meant it. Silence. I could feel his judgment, his confusion, his fury, all building. He's your brother, I said. I didn't plan any of this. Do you like him? Liam asked. His tone was sharp, direct, and I realized in that moment I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but I wasn't ready to say out loud. I don't know, I said. Liam took a step back. You need to figure it out. Fast. Because he's not a joke. And he's not a kid. Then he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, alone, again. Liam hadn't responded to a single one of my texts. Not since that day on the porch when I told him the truth. And the longer the silence stretched between us, the heavier it got. Like a wall was being built, brick by brick, and I didn't know how to stop it. And honestly, I wasn't sure I deserved to. The worst part wasn't that I might have lost my best friend. It was that I didn't know what I meant to the person I might be falling for. On Saturday, Ethan texted me. Liam's throwing a party tonight. I think it's his way of pretending everything's fine. If you come, we'll have to pretend too. Can you handle that? I stared at the message for a long time. I could have said no. I could have stayed home and avoided the chaos. But I didn't. I needed to see him, even if it meant pretending. The house was packed. People spilling onto the porch. Music pulsing from inside. Red cups in every hand. Laughter echoing off the walls like nothing in the world was wrong. But when I stepped through the door, Liam saw me instantly. He didn't wave, didn't smile, just nodded once, like he was silently saying, you showed up, now act like nothing's broken. I nodded back. It was a fragile truce. And Ethan? He wasn't in sight. I kept scanning the room as I drifted from conversation to conversation, holding a drink I barely touched, smiling when people spoke to me, but hearing nothing. Then I saw him, across the room, leaning against the kitchen counter, talking to some guy I didn't recognize. Tall, broad-shouldered, too confident, and touching him, hand on Ethan's back, then his arm, then too low on his waist. I couldn't move. Ethan was laughing, casual, effortless. And when the guy leaned in and said something close to his ear, Ethan's eyes lifted and locked onto mine. He didn't look away. He didn't smile. He just held my gaze, like he was daring me to react. And I couldn't, because I didn't have the right to. I turned and walked out the back door. The night air was sharp and welcome. I sat on the wooden steps of the backyard porch, watching shadows flicker across the lawn. Inside, music kept thudding. People were dancing. The world kept moving. But I was stuck, in silence, in guilt, in something that looked a lot like jealousy. Running again? I didn't need to turn. It was Ethan. I sighed, not running, just breathing. He stepped around me, leaned against the railing. You looked like you were going to punch that guy. I don't care about that guy. Could have fooled me. I looked up at him. What was that? Were you trying to make a point? He crossed his arms. Maybe I was just trying to feel something other than ignored. I shook my head. You're not being fair. No, you're not being fair, he said, voice firmer now. You keep pulling me in and then running the second it gets real. I stood up, because it scares the hell out of me. Yeah. He stepped closer. Well, guess what? It scares me too. We were nose to nose now, breathing hard, every inch between us buzzing like electricity. I don't know how to do this, I said. I don't even know what this is. It's simple, he said. You want me. I want you. Stop acting like you don't feel it. I looked away. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. I didn't answer, because I couldn't, because I didn't want to explain how every moment with him made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. He softened. I'm not trying to ruin your life, he said, voice lower now. I'm just trying to be part of it. That hit me hard. Then he added, but I can't keep being your secret. Just then, the side gate crashed open. Liam stormed into the yard, red-faced, wild-eyed. You two done? We both turned. His voice was shaking, not from anger, but from something that looked a lot like betrayal. I leave you alone for one night, and you're sneaking off like this? Liam, Ethan started. No, he snapped. I don't want to hear it. I stepped forward. We weren't. Don't lie to me, he shouted. The music inside was still blasting. No one had noticed yet, but we had. Ethan took a breath. He didn't plan this. I did. Liam looked at him, something breaking in his eyes. You're my brother. I know. And you're my best friend, he said, turning to me. You're supposed to be. Safe. Someone I trust. I had no words, because he was right and wrong, and I didn't know how to fix any of it. Then, somewhere inside the house, someone screamed, Fire! We all froze. Smoke curled into the sky above the roofline. Another shout, Kitchen! It's the kitchen! People started pouring out the back door, coughing, shouting, panicking. And in the middle of it all, Ethan turned to me. His hand reached out, desperate, instinctual. Don't let go, he said. And I didn't, even as everything behind us burned, even as the world cracked open with chaos and sirens. I held on, and maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of everything real. The flames didn't last long. The fire had started from a pan left on the stove. Too much oil, too much distraction, and just enough heat to turn a party into chaos. No one was hurt. Not physically, at least, but something in me burned that night, and it didn't go out. The next day, the house smelled like smoke and melted plastic. Liam didn't say a word to me. He barely looked at me while we swept out blackened debris from the kitchen. His silence was heavier than the ash. Ethan wasn't home. He'd left early that morning, no message, no explanation, and I didn't blame him. There was nothing left to say that hadn't already been said, except the one thing I was still terrified to speak aloud, that I wanted him, that I'd always wanted him, long before I had the courage to admit it, that I hadn't just let his hand go before the fire. I'd let him fall, and I didn't want to be that version of me anymore. 3 days later, I stood outside their house again. My chest was tight, my hands cold even under the sun. I could see Liam through the window, sitting on the couch, legs bouncing. He opened the door before I could knock. I figured you'd come, he said. I had to. He stepped aside and let me in. The living room looked the same as always. Framed family photos. A half-drunk mug of coffee on the table. A worn-out rug beneath our feet. Familiar. Too familiar for the tension we carried between us. I'm not here to defend what happened, I said, or how it happened. He didn't interrupt. But I need you to know I never planned it. I didn't look at your brother and think, he's next. I didn't chase him. Liam's jaw clenched. But you didn't stop it either. I tried. Not hard enough. Silence. And then he said, "Do you love him?" It hit me like a punch to the chest. I looked at the ground, then back at him. Yes. Liam exhaled, almost like he'd been holding his breath for years. Then why did you let him walk away? Because I didn't think I deserved him, I said. I still don't. Liam nodded slowly. He's at the old train station, the one behind Pinewood Avenue. He goes there when he needs to think. I blinked. Why are you telling me this? Because, he said, looking me dead in the eyes, he deserves someone who shows up. The station was half forgotten, a ghost of its former self. Cracked tiles, rusted benches, graffiti, and weeds breaking through the pavement. And Ethan, sitting on a bench, hoodie pulled over his head, arms crossed, staring at nothing. I stood a few feet away, unsure if I should speak. He spoke first. You came. I didn't know if I should. He turned slightly. Then why did you? Because I realized I can live with mistakes, but not with never knowing what we could have been. Ethan didn't say anything, so I walked over, sat beside him. The silence stretched, and then I said the words I never thought I'd say out loud. I was afraid of what it meant to want you, afraid of what I'd lose. My friendship with your brother, the version of myself I'd built so carefully. But the truth is, none of that feels real anymore if I'm lying to myself. He turned his head, slowly. I don't want to be your secret, he said. You're not, I replied. Not anymore. Then I added quieter, I love you. Ethan looked at me like he didn't believe it, like I was air and he'd been underwater too long. And then he smiled. Say it again. I love you. He reached for my hand, and for the first time, I didn't hesitate. I laced my fingers with his and let them stay there, not in the dark, not behind a door, but out in the open, under sky wide enough to hold us both. Things didn't get easier overnight. Liam needed time. So did I. So did Ethan in his own way. There were hard conversations, awkward family dinners, lingering stares and long silences. But we stayed. We chose each other again and again. And every time I looked at him, this boy who used to be just my best friend's little brother, I saw someone brave enough to want more, and strong enough to demand it. And maybe, in loving him, I finally learned how to be brave too. If this story made you feel something real, take a moment to ask yourself, what are you still running from? Who are you afraid to love because of rules someone else wrote for your heart? And how long will you wait before you stop hiding from who you really are? If this hit home, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay.